Okay, so the one position is sideline. What's another position you can use? Supine. And to get different parts of the origin, that's probably the best position. So I'll show you that as well. Obviously, the unique element of this is client comfort. You have to make sure that your client is going to be comfortable. And so we use gravity as our friend here. So sometimes it's able to take the breast tissue away so that we can get actually right where we need to get. Same as the pectoralis minor in that regard. Okay, so why don't you, like that. How's that? The idea is the upper arm is relaxed, and you just position it so it leans on the lower arm. Good? Okay. I bring the scapula out like this, and the muscle into me. Now I'm going into your armpits, is that okay? And what I find is I can have the entire muscle in between my fingers and my thumbs. Okay, for a moment I won't say too much. I'm just going to show you what that looks like. How does that feel?
It's good.
Okay. You feel that I have the muscle?
Yeah, it's like pulling off my ribs.
Yes. Does it hurt?
No.
Okay.
And you're just holding it.
Yes.
What's your pressure like when you're holding it? Or what's his pressure like when he's holding it?
It's a bit harder there.
Okay.
I don't know how to explain pressure.
Like, is it like just a light touch, or is he?
No, he's grabbing it and,
Okay.
and like,
He's got it.
I don't know, just grabbing the muscle and pulling it out.
Yeah,
Not too much pressure.
The one thing I'll describe this is it's dispersed. I don't go in there with pincers, like a cat. I go in there with flat surfaces, okay? So it's less obtrusive. So I see how I approach the tissue. It's not like I'm probing. And otherwise she's going to be on, you know, on her security vest. And then I gradually go in like that. And if I need to be a little more precise, then I would go like that. Okay? I try not to lose sight of what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to feel all the muscle, to unveil any TPs, to spread the tissue so it improves circulation, and also to decrease any adherences. And I'm going to thoroughly separate this muscle from any other tissue it's adhered to. So I start in the middle where I can access it, and then I work down towards where it comes from, the origin. See that I've done that? And with.
Are you working equally, like your fingers and your thumb, or mostly
Yes.
your thumb?
Yes. I usually stop one and move the other, stop this, and I change it back and forth depending on what the geography lends itself to. Okay? If I'm trying to do something on the muscle, the portion of the muscle closer to my fingers, then my fingers are going to be doing the moving.
Right.
See what I mean? And I thoroughly move out. I just follow it. Even if you can't remember exactly where it goes, you follow it. It's not an intellectual experience any longer. Not a mind memory experience. And I go right out to where it inserts, right near the lats. And we can do this on ourselves while you're sitting, but when she's in this position, it's very easy. The muscle is out from the body. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so I go up in to catch as much as I can. So what does it feel like that I'm in your armpit?
I can feel like the fascia kind of stretching. It's a bit more tender in the center of the belly.
Okay. And at times I go to fascial work and I want to, okay, I'm just going to see how I take the whole muscle and I just stretch it a little bit and I just hold it there. Have you had any discomfort or referral when I've done this?
No referral.
Okay. I just want to highlight a couple of things. I am right here with her. She knows that I'm not anywhere else. I'm not looking at her chest or spacing out. My focus is with her. So then, I don't know whether that gives you some confidence, but there's no question about what I'm trying to do. Okay?
Is it very easy to
And
determine the pec major from the pec minor
easy.
there?
Yes.
Because of the-
How I separate those is the pec minor is going to be right on, it's like closest to the rib cage. It's not away, I can't get it away. It's like little lines right on the rib cage. Where the pectoralis major is like, it's 1 story or 2 stories away. It's literally, if you were to go into the house, one you're looking at the floor, one you're looking at the ceiling. And that's the way I imagine it. And you can get the ceiling further away from the floor to make sure that that's exactly where you're at. Okay? Now, if I want to be more clear, I could also have her press this down against your hand. Yeah, and it just, I want to get a sense of that. It just, do that one more time. It just becomes very clear. Okay? Where the pectoralis minor, you couldn't see that at all. Okay? Any questions about what we've done?
Is that all pec that's flexing there, or is that?
Yes. All pec. What you see right here. Okay? So it's hard for you to see, but what I've done is I've gone in where I'm absolutely certain where I am, and I have, at the center of the muscle, I have brought her arm out, and I have inched myself along towards the origin, and inched myself along towards the insertion. And therefore, I've covered off all the muscle. And while I've gone in there, it becomes softer and more accessible. Can you feel that?
Yeah, it's not as tender.
Yes. At first, you may not feel a lot because there's a lot of tension, maybe some congestion. But as you move slowly, you start to feel more. Okay? And I never forget how it's feeling for her, because she's going to react to this if I am too aggressive. And I know I'm doing okay as long as it just softens as we go. I also pay attention, is she fatiguing from being in this position? So it is okay from time to time I can change it up so that I don't want her to make gains in one area, I don't want to lose in another area by her tensing up. Okay? And you see how easy this is for me? I have a chair that rolls around. I don't get too close, and my hands are absolutely relaxed when I'm doing this. It really doesn't take much energy. Okay? So that's the idea. So I'll go to the next position. Okay? Maybe someone could help her go to supine. I'm going to go wash my hands.
And obviously I looked over and I was like,
Now I'm going to ask you to rest to one side. Not like, for example, just put your hand in the line and walk on here. Is that okay? Okay. We've changed positions. So on your cells, can you palpate exactly where this muscle comes from. And remember, all you have to do is horizontal adduct, and this muscle will come alive. So I'm going to try to get the origin as it comes from the clavicle as well as the sternum. In this case, along the clavicle is pretty straightforward. And so I keep in mind where the muscle's coming from. So with fiber, and it's like clearing off a muscle. It's not just a mechanical back and forth, it's like you're on an uneven surface and you're clearing it off. And then I go cross fiber. How's that?
Good.
I get around it, underneath it a little bit, underneath the clavicle. Because each person's different. It's, again, I just have to feel where that muscle is. Now, when I'm going to work along the sternum, I can have the client just move your breast tissue a little to that side. So, there. And I can move in. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. You could have a towel there, but if their hand is there, then I can, so with their hand, I can move. Just take a deep breath. Excellent. And even through the sheet, or not, you can address the origin of this muscle. And just to give you a sense, once I'm there, I am not moving out and going back in. I'm there. So I don't need to look.
Are you just putting your fingers in between two ribs and just doing?
I'm just, yes, right at where the ribs meet the sternum. That's where this is going to be. Now, if I have you horizontally adduct, you can leave your hand there, but horizontally, yes, and I can feel where the muscle is. Okay? Excellent. And I would just follow to make sure I cover off that entire portion.
And actually that's a good point, because if Doug was a little bit between the ribs, that would be intercostals, right?
And where possible, I would move all the way around. Does that make sense? Now, okay, any questions about that?
With the frictioning, how many fingers were you using? Were you using the 2 center?
Yeah, try to have the friction no more than 2 fingers wide. It shouldn't be a broad, it should be reasonably precise. That's what I'm doing.
Were you using?
I can reinforced. I'm actually like that. Okay.
Do you mean as he was coming down here?
Yeah, as he was coming down the sternum, your hands were kind of sided, so I was wondering if you're using both hands for that?
No, I'm not.
No.
That's a good question. Even though my hands are like this, there are 1 or 2 that are designated as doing the work. Okay? But I don't want to tense up the rest of my hand. Okay. In your notes, there is a reference to a cardio rhythm point. On the right side, I find the xenoid process. I go about, I believe, it's an inch to the right and an inch to 2 inches up in between the intercostals. There is sometimes a point there that is a visceral somatic reflex point. And then you can actually initiate and stir the rhythm of the heart I don't know much research about this, but I do know that it exists from time to time. And so I'd like you to explore that today as well.
What do you mean by stir?
Stimulate the heart rate.
Now, why would you want to stimulate the heart rate?
Well, if this point is active, then the heart rate may be activated already. What you're trying to do is calm it down. You're trying to deactivate a trigger point, a somatic visceral reflex. That's what you're trying to
So
do.
if there's a trigger point there, it could be speeding up the heart rate.
Yes.
When it's active.
When
I've
it's
actually had this trigger point and I thought I was having a heart attack. I've been to emergency 5 times because I've had, like in my family, heart attacks run young. And they said, no, you're not having a heart attack, it's anxiety. And I wasn't, like, I was reading a book, a leisure book. And so at times I was exercising, so there was nothing that was in common. Anyways, they ended up diagnosing me with costochondritis, but all that pectoralis fascia, all where everything's attaching to the rib cage here, activates that trigger point. And I mean, my arm goes numb, I can't move. Like exactly like Doug's saying, my heart rate is up. The only difference that I noticed when I was like wanting to feel that, okay, this is a heart attack or not a heart attack, is I actually could position my arm above my head. If that was a heart attack, you can't change the position and change the pain level, it's constant. And so when it was explained to me like that, I was like, okay. But I mean, I had EKGs done, so I knew I hadn't had a heart attack. I just thought they had missed something.
Yes.
Anyways, it's all the way down the arm. It's exactly like a heart attack.
I think the moral of the story here is not as though, this is not a gold coin we're looking for, as opposed to an idea that we are looking and understanding that there's different parts of the tissue around here that it can affect the viscera and its function. And so if you know that, when you just, as you approach the tissue and you get response, then you're going to try to decrease that response.
So you said it was on the right side, 2 finger, like about 2 finger widths?
Yes,
apart
I
from
think
the
it's
sternum?
described as 2.5 centimeters over and 5 centimeters up.
Okay, from which part of
The
the sternum?
xiphoid.
Right at the xiphoid process.
Oh,
That's
okay.
on the heart itself.
No, it's going right.
But a third of the heart is on like.
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
But
It's,
would it be on the left or the right side?
well, while we're taping, I'm not going to have too much of a discussion. It's on the right-hand side. I don't know why. It's on the right-hand side. So we'll move forward, and then afterwards we'll discuss this a little more. I appreciate that this is kind of exciting stuff. So, any questions about the pectoralis major? So subclavius, again, I likely should have done this side lying, but there's different ways to do this. And where is the subclavius muscle? This is a thin little muscle, starts about 1/3 of the way in between the sternum and the acromioclavicular joint, and it's just right under it, okay? So if this is the clavicle, and this is the head up here, and the feet down here, what you're trying to do is bring your fingers from the upper part somehow to meet underneath. And this muscle has not seen daylight before, so all you have to do is get there. And as long as you're not too aggressive, you'll do good. Okay? So the idea is if you need to have horizontal abduction not only of the arm but of the shoulder, and then elevation of the clavicle, and that creates space. Not just the shoulder, the actual clavicle has to go forward and then up, and you will feel space. Can you feel space on yourselves? Mm-hmm. So although I'm going against gravity, I can elevate the shoulder
Sorry.
towards the ceiling and elevate the shoulder in the plane of the body. And now my actual finger and thumb are there. Do you feel that? And I basically go like this. What other muscle am I addressing in between my thumb and my finger? Pec major as well. So at times, your intention is to get a muscle, but there are things in between the muscle and your thumb. There's other things there. But the direction you go in and your intention is different. And as I want more space, I move your arm. See what I've done? Could you describe this?
I don't know. My clavicle is totally pointing up in that way, and you just got your fingers right around. You're just kind of rolling
Okay.
along the
Just
muscle.
rolling the fibers in between my thumb and my fingers.
Are you going against the fibers? Can we tell?
Pardon me?
Are you going with the fibers or can we?
Width and cross.
Like that.
Okay, very small muscle, so this is not large movements, something that's going to be hard for you to decipher from this position.
A little tendon there.
Now, does it feel like a different muscle than the pectoralis major?
Definitely.
Definitely, yeah. So the feeling is quite different.
And you're on the lateral part of the pelvis?
I start a third of the way from the sternum towards the AC joint, and I move all the way to the lateral portion. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay, the last part of this, I'm going to actually have you go face down.
Can you stretch the subclavius?
I think self-stretch of the subclavius is very difficult, but stretching it manually as a therapist and the fascia around it, you can. And this brings up a good situation where the hamstrings stretch pretty well, unless they're so mobile they can't stretch, but the subclavius doesn't. So by going in manually, you can do what you otherwise cannot do. Does that make sense? Okay. Levator scapula comes from up here and moves along, attaches to the upper 4 cervical vertebrae, and then goes and attaches to which border of the scapula? Superior. Okay, so superior angle, which maybe that's what it's called. It's on the medial border, is that right? Yes. So this is a little thing to help you. I get the person's elbow like this. I get my body like this, and I actually passively shrug their shoulder. Okay? While my hand is wrapped around to the front of the scapula. And what it does is now my fingers are exactly on that angle of where that levator goes into. Can you feel that? And I'm going to address it that way. So I don't dig in there. What I do is I place my hand around the top of the shoulder, and then I bring her scapula to me. It's kind of like if you're the muscle in the scapula, I get my hand here and I say, yeah, okay, I'm going to bring it to me.
Yeah, okay.
I don't have to tense up and go searching
Coming right in.
and get him to protect himself. Yeah, I just bring it right back. Does that make sense? So, and while I'm there, is there any other muscles you can think of that you might be able to address? Trapezius, if I change the intention and the direction of my fingers by bringing them together. Yes. What else? Possibly the rhomboids if I come around to the exact medial border of the scapula. Serratus anterior, same rationale as the rhomboids, except deeper. And also, if the subscapularis, which if I bring it far enough forward, all of a sudden what I've done is I've brought the scapula over my fingers, and now I've changed the intention of my fingers, and I do this. Okay? It's like I'm going to paint that wall, now I'm going to paint this wall, now I'm going to paint that wall. I changed my focus. Okay, so I can get all of those muscles, particularly with her, and I don't have to, again, strain myself to do it. See how my whole body is working together? You okay? Mm-hmm. And if there's a TP, then I would address the TP. If I were to move along from the superior medial border of the scapula, along the very top of the scapula, I'm going to move into a little bit of a groove there, and that's where the omohyoid goes. And I would go in there. So while I'm there, I can address all these muscles.
That's a muscle.
Yes. I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think the biggest thing I want to share with you today is sometimes when you're in a location, you're going to address everything you can. Whether you know the name of it or not, as long as you know that you're not doing damage, you can address it. And as you learn these muscles, you'll see that, well, I know how to get there. I've been there before. Okay, to address the other parts of the levator, at a 45-degree angle, I'm going to approach the posterior aspect of the spine and gently.
I need to come to that side.
Okay, do deep stroking in segments. Okay, tell me what the pressure is like.
It's not too deep.
Not too deep.
Do you know if picture's kind of fuzzy?
Sorry?
It's kind of fuzzy on the screen.
It must be because of the battery. Something wrong with that. Okay, I'm just going to finish up here.
It looks like you're holding the skin so that you can
I am.
stroke away.
I am holding the skin so that it doesn't move with me. So
That's better.
exactly right. Yes. And if there's an area of sensitivity, then I would address this in much smaller frictions than normal because the area is quite sensitive and smaller. Okay, so I could use then lotion to address that for the levator particular. Any questions about, I have addressed the pectoralis major from the side lying position as well as from a supine position. We've introduced the cardiorhythm point on the right hand side, and I showed you how to address one possibility out of a number, the subclavius. And then we talked about this, how to unveil and palpate and address the levator scapula. Any questions about that?
There's one question behind you.
Okay.
Can you feel the first TVP? Can you feel it? Or is that too high? Yeah.
No, you can feel it.